And CBC's Marina von Stackelberg is at the convention tracking the very latest for us, and she joins us now. Marina, great to see you. Let's talk about the 5 candidates and how they've delivered their final pitches. What stood out for you?
Yeah, so we did just hear from all 5 candidates. This was their last chance to sell themselves to the NDP faithful. As you mentioned, their voting wraps up this evening. And so this was their chance to really get their message out there. And so we heard from the 2 frontrunners, as well as 3 other candidates in this race. Avi Lewis continued with what we've heard a lot from him, which is this focus on taking on capitalism. His policies that he's putting forward are all about taxing the ultra-rich, taking on monopolies. Things like having a public option for grocery stores or cell phone plans, as well as, putting an end to fossil fuel expansion. He talked about the straight talk that he wants to bring to the party, meeting people where they are and speaking to them in a way that they understand. Have a listen to some of what he had to say.
We can fire up our base and build a bigger coalition. We do it by fighting for the big wins that would truly change everyday people's lives. It doesn't mean we can win them tomorrow, but I'll tell you what it does do. It brings in new organizers from communities already in the struggle. It builds the energy, excitement, and ground game that we need to win.
Lewis has really managed to galvanize a very significant portion of a base of people, including environmentalists. A lot of young people here are supporting him. And he says that he really will be the person to lead the party in a way that helps it to really come back onto the national stage. His biggest opponent, fellow frontrunner, is Heather McPherson. She is seen as someone who is hoping to bring the party into a bigger range of people. She talks about wanting to make the table bigger for people. She has a lot of support from a lot of current, former NDP members of parliament, and she is the only one in this race with a seat in the House of Commons. And she says that is a really important thing because it allows her from day one as leader to fight in the House of Commons. She talked a lot today about some of the things that New Democrats have fought for, universal health care, dental care, and she said that it's important that NDPers continue to fight for that. And to do that, they need to be actually elected. Have a listen to her pitch to voters.
Our values are winning, and we can choose to ignore or even oppose that success, or we can build from it together. That's our solidarity. That is our strength. So if you're ready to rebuild our party, I'm asking for your support.
She has also the support of some notable people, including Alberta's former NDP Premier Rachel Notley, who introduced her on stage here in Winnipeg. And McPherson talked about, some of the issues that are important to her in a video showing some of her time in the House of Commons, standing up for issues like Gaza, and really pushing as the person that can continue to do that in the House of Commons. But, Natasha, this has been a long race. We're talking about a little over half a year that these candidates have been campaigning. This party hasn't had a leader in almost a year since Jagmeet Singh stepped down after that devastating election result. And you can see in these candidates that they are excited and they have had a long race. Speaking about some personal things, they've all kind of been managing different things at different times. Someone actually in the audience showed me a picture of Tony McQuail, one of the candidates. And it was a picture that they took of him this morning on a Winnipeg bus on the way in, and he had his speech with him, and he was practicing his speech that he was going to give. We heard from Avi Lewis talking about how his dad's not well, and he's taking phone calls, and a family member is keeping his dad in the loop about how the race is going. We heard, Rob Ashton, he took a road trip. He traveled by road by himself all the way from Vancouver to Winnipeg, wanting to kind of speak with people there. We heard McPherson talking about the support of her family, joking that her dogs at home were going to be upset about how long she'd been gone. And then Tenille Johnston, she's a social worker, she's a mom, she's been doing that through this whole race as well. So a lot of humanity coming out here today in these final pitches from these candidates.
So it's been 6 months of campaigning, and you've been at the convention for the past 2 days. So within the past couple of days, what's really stood out for you?
There's a lot of positivity here. It's a very different vibe from what it was like a year ago on election night. There's a feeling of rebuilding. There's a lot of speaking about what makes New Democrats unique. And it's something that all of the candidates have spoken about. Have a listen.
Canadians need us more than ever. They're feeling the pressure on their bills, their jobs, their futures. And they're looking for a party that understands what they're going through. And we are that party.
I am so incredibly proud to stand before you, not only as the first Indigenous woman to run for federal leadership, but the first Indigenous person ever to be on a federal leadership ballot. And I am so incredibly grateful that that piece of political history now lives with the NDP.
To all the teams, if you do not win tomorrow, grieve that loss, shed some tears, and then think about how we can come together to bring all that talent and energy into a bigger, broader team that can truly challenge the 1%'s control of Canadian politics, our economy, and our society.
And part of that excitement here in Winnipeg at this convention is the fact that there's new memberships. Since this race began, there's been about 40,000 new members signed up to be New Democrats. There's been fundraising. And they're saying, you know, you can't count us out. We've been counted out before, and we will rebuild. But polls show, Natasha, that, you know, half of Canadians can't name one of these candidates. Half of them see the NDP as irrelevant. So this new leader will win over the New Democratic faithful here. But their big challenge is going to be next week when they have to try to win over the Canadian public.
CBC's Marina von Stackelberg in Winnipeg. Thank you.